But now, let's take you live to San Francisco, where, as you can see here, this is Elon Musk. He's talking to my colleague James Clayton. He's our technology correspondent based out there. Let's have a listen into their conversation as it happens.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying...
I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's what I'm asking for examples.
Right.
Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I don't.
Name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it. And actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at my following.
You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I honestly couldn't
see the hateful content.
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give us a single one.
And I'm saying
then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed. What I claimed was. There are many organisations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not, I mean, right, and you can look at something like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed. I would say for a few weeks because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation. You changed the COVID misinformation rules.
BBC changes COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, and then it disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. If you want to talk about the BBC, all right. Let's talk about something else.
You weren't expecting that.
Let's talk about something else. Narendra Modi. The BBC did a documentary about Narendra Modi and his leadership during the riots in Gujarat. We then believe that some of that content was taken off Twitter. Was that at the behest of the Indian government?
I'm not aware of that particular situation.
So you're not sure?
I don't know. I don't know about that. What exactly happened with some content situation in India. The rules in India for what can appear on social media are quite strict. And we can't go beyond the laws of a country.
But do you get that if you do that, you incentivize countries around the world to simply pass more draconian laws?
No. Look, if we have a choice of either our people go to prison or we comply with the laws, we will comply with the laws. The same goes for the BBC.
Okay. Since you became CEO, there's been another story in town.
No,
TikTok.
I'm not CEO anymore.
Okay, you're chief twit, or what are you?
No, my dog Floki is the CEO.
Okay.
He's taken over.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, so TikTok has also been in the news. There's talk of perhaps the Biden administration wanting to potentially ban it or force a sale. What's your view of the situation?
I don't really use TikTok. I mean, one of the reasons that I emphasize that that our goal here at Twitter is to maximize unregretted user minutes or unregretted user time is that I hear many people tell me they spent a lot of time on TikTok, but they regret the time spent. And that seems like, okay, well, we don't want to have regretted time. We want the time to be unregretted, where you learned things, you were entertained, amused. I mean, frankly, I get more laughs out of Twitter than anything else, and many people tell me the same thing. So that's a good sign. For TikTok itself, like I said, I just don't know enough about what's going on there. I can't say I have a strong opinion on TikTok.
So you have an opinion on whether it should be banned or not?
You know, I'm generally against banning things. So I would probably not be in favor. I mean, it would help Twitter, I suppose, if TikTok was banned, because then people would spend more time on Twitter and less time on TikTok. But even though that would be even if it would help Twitter, I would be generally against banning of things.
Okay. Do you feel sometimes that your many business interests might get in the way of you having opinion? I mean, for example, Tesla has major connections in China. You wouldn't have a certain opinion on something or feel uncomfortable about saying something because of your other business interests elsewhere?
Do I look uncomfortable? Actually, I do. I look uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, Tesla's got activities around the world, and so does SpaceX. You know, once in a while, those things do come into conflict. But it's not like Twitter's like, you know, operates in China. It doesn't. It was banned in China. So, and certainly I've received no communication whatsoever from the Chinese government with regard to Twitter.
Okay. In terms of advertising, obviously Twitter's not a private company anymore, so we don't really know how it's all going. Have all the advertisers come back?
Not all, but most.
And
I mean, you can see it for yourself on Twitter, even in the For You feed.
Right.
I mean, in the
following feed.
Don't use For You because it sucks.
Right.
Filled with hate speech, I'm told.
That's not what I said.
Okay, fine. Well, why don't you use For You? What's wrong with it?
How is it going? Is Twitter in profit now?
No, Twitter is rough. I'd say we're roughly break even at this point.
And I think you've said before you see a world where you could be in profit. Is there a timeline on that, do you think?
I mean, depending on how things go, if current trends continue, I think we could be profitable. Or, I mean, I'd say, to be more precise, we could be cash flow positive this quarter if things keep going well.
This quarter, as soon as that?
Possibly, yeah.
Wow. And do you have a message for the advertisers? I mean, can you say which advertisers haven't come back?
I think almost all of them have either come back or said they're going to come back. There are very few exceptions.
Can you say any of the exceptions?
I actually don't know of anyone who said definitively they're not coming back. They're all sort of trending towards coming back.
But there are some that just haven't.
Jumping in the water's warm. It's great.
That's your message to the advertisers who haven't come back.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, if Disney feels comfortable advertising, you know, children's movies, and Apple feels comfortable advertising iPhones, those are good indicators that Twitter is a good place to advertise.
I want to talk about if you have any regrets. And you know, I think you were booed at a Dave Chappelle concert. I think your own lawyer said a little. Well, Some say a little, some say a bit more. I think your own lawyer said you couldn't get a fair trial in San Francisco because there are lots of people that don't necessarily like you here.
Yeah, but I have to say I was wrong. He was wrong, I guess, because I was acquitted by the San Francisco jury unanimously. So,
but I guess.
But look,
do you have any regrets buying Twitter?
I think it was something that needed to be done.
I mean, you said earlier that
difficult. It's I'd say that the pain level of Twitter has been extremely high. This hasn't been some sort of party, so it's been really quite a stressful situation. For the last several months, not an easy one. But apart from the pain, I mean, so it's been quite painful. But I think at the end of the day, it should have been done. I think were there many mistakes made along the way? Of course, but all's well that ends well, and so I feel like we're headed to a good place. We're roughly break even. I think we're trending towards being cash flow positive very soon, like literally in a matter of months. The advertisers are returning. I think the quality of recommended tweets has improved significantly, and we've taken a lot of feedback from people that have looked at the open source recommendation algorithm, and we've made a lot of improvements even since that was made open source, and we're going to keep doing that. So overall, I think the trend is very good. So, I
mean, it was actually something I was going to ask you. You mentioned the pain, but you actually tweeted, I think in February, you said the last 3 months have been extremely tough. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. Are you talking emotionally there? I mean,
yeah.
Can you explain?
I wasn't stabbed or anything.
Right.
Like but some people around here, it's just dangerous neck of the woods we're in.
It is. It can be. But can you just talk me through the emotional strain of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been under constant attack. I mean, it's not like I, have a stone cold heart or something like that. If you're under constant criticism and attack, and then that gets fed to you nonstop, including through Twitter, it's rough. Now, at the end of the day, I kind of think that if you do lose your feedback loop, that's actually not good. So I think it is actually important to get negative feedback. I don't turn replies off, and I actually I removed my entire block list, so I don't block anyone either. So somebody can, so I get a lot of negative feedback.
What's been your
good to get negative feedback?
Right. When you talk about the emotional strain, you've gone back to feedback. Is that the thing that's been most difficult to take, the sort of negative feedback?
Yeah, I mean, if the media is writing nonstop stories about why you're a horrible person, I mean, it's hurtful. Obviously. I'm interested. I've written down a lot of these questions, but I haven't written this one down. But it's interesting. It feels like you have quite a kind of interesting relationship with the media, because in some ways you're quite skeptical, quite critical, certainly, of established media. But also you kind of get hurt by what the media writes, and you seem to. Obviously, you do get your news still from the BBC, as you've already said. I literally follow the BBC.
Right. So do you feel you have a kind of odd relationship with the media?
Yes.
Go on, explain.
No, it is somewhat of a love-hate relationship, although, I mean, it might be tilted a bit more towards the hate. But I think this is sort of part and parcel of having a free media situation, which is that I do take heart in that the media is actually able to trash me on a regular basis in the United States and the UK and whatnot, whereas in a lot of other places the media cannot say mean things to powerful people.
Okay.
So I think it's better that we have a situation where the media can say mean things to powerful people.
If we're talking about the media, let's talk about verification labels. You obviously want to create another revenue stream that's subscription-based. Is verification the way to do that? Because we have a kind of a situation at the moment where the New York Times doesn't have a verified badge, whereas anyone else who can pay whatever few bucks a month can. Can that be right? Is that what you envisaged when you bought Twitter?
I must confess to some delight in removing the verified badge from the New York Times. That was great. Anyway, they're still alive and well, so they're doing fine.
But on a serious note, it could flame disinformation again if you have verified accounts that are from anyone who can pay money. They go up to potentially the top of feeds. They get more action on Twitter, and traditional media that may not pay for verification doesn't. Do you see how that could potentially be a driver of misinformation?
Well, I mean, I think the media is a driver of misinformation much more than the media would like to admit that they are.
I mean, that's a different question.
Yeah, but you are sort of saying like who knows best, the average citizen or someone who is a journalist. And I think in a lot of cases it is the average citizen that knows more than the journalist. In fact, I mean, very often when I see an article about something that I know a lot about, and I read the article, and it's like they get a lot wrong. Sort of the best interpretation is it's someone who doesn't really understand what's going on in industry, has only a few facts to play with, has to come up with an article. It's going to be, it's not going to hit the bullseye. So then, like, generally, this is how I explain this to other people. If you read an article about something you know about, how accurate is that article? Now, imagine that is how essentially all articles are. They're an approximation of what's going on, but not an exact situation. So if somebody is actually, let's say, in the fray, or like an expert in the field, and was actually there, and writes about their experience of being actually there, I think that actually that's in a lot of cases going to be better than a journalist, because the journalist wasn't there.
I think you said the legacy verified blue ticks are going to go next week. There have been a few deadlines on this. 420. Yeah, I see the joke.
That number will never leave me.
Clearly.
Do you know
it cost you a lot of money.
Well, fortunately, it didn't in the trial.
Well, yeah, right, for the SEC, right?
Yes, we're going to ask for a refund.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good luck. Let's move on from that. But blue ticks, in theory, all legacy blue ticks gone next week, and at that point you'll kind of work out whether this is going to sink or swim.
Yes.
What's your hunch? I mean, you've obviously.
I think it's going to swim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll swim just fine.
Okay. What are you looking for in terms of a revenue stream on that? What are your goals?
Well, I don't know if it's like necessarily a giant revenue stream. Because even if you have sort of 1 million people that are subscribed for, let's say, $100 a year ish, that's $100 million. And that's a fairly small revenue stream relative to advertising. But what we're really trying to do here with verification is to massively raise the cost of disinformation and bots in general. So my prediction is that any social media company that does not insist on paid verification will simply be overwhelmed by advanced AI bots. I mean, ChatGPT is essentially a zillion instances of ChatGPT. How would you even know?
Is that really what you want on the platform? Do you want big news organizations being overwhelmed by bots so that they have to pay?
No, the point is that you won't be.
If you pay. But a lot of organizations have already said they're not going to pay, like the New York Times.
Well, then, that's up to them if they, can make them pay. It's a small amount of money, so I don't know what their problem is. But we're going to treat everyone equally. So what we're not going to do is say that there's some anointed class of journalists who are the special ones who get to tell everyone what they should think. that it should be up to the people what they think. And even if an article is completely accurate and comprehensive and everything, there's still, in writing that article, the media is choosing the narrative. They're deciding what to write an article about. So I'm hopeful that this can be more a case of the public choosing the narrative as opposed to the media choosing the narrative. But the media can choose the narrative, at least a combination of the media and the public choosing the narrative. And the public getting to weigh in on stories if they think they should add something to it or if we got something wrong. And over time, I think if Twitter is the best source of truth, it will succeed. And if we are not the best source of truth, we will fail.
Someone comes in and offers you $44 billion for Twitter right now. Would you take it?
No.
Would you consider it?
No.
Why?
I take it back. It depends on who. I suppose if I was confident that they would pursue, they would rigorously pursue the truth, then I guess I would be glad to hand it off to someone else. I don't care about the money really, but I do want to have some source of truth that I can count on, and I hope that's our aspiration with Twitter, is to have a source of truth that you can count on. It's also real time. It's an immediate source of truth that you can count on, and that gets more accurate with time as people comment on a particular thing.
Well, if you don't care about the money, you could just give it to someone that you think is a good person to run Twitter.
Who do you think that might be?
I'm not the boss of Twitter.
No, but you might still have an idea.
Who could run Twitter?
Yes.
Honestly, I have no idea who could run Twitter.
Yeah, it's a hard job.
Okay, let's move on to. You've said that you were going to stand down.
I already have.
Chief executive, right? Okay.
I keep telling you, I'm not the CEO of Twitter. My dog is the CEO of Twitter.
Okay. Have you got any?
It's a great dog.
Other than the dog.
He's very alert, and it's hard to get anything by him.
Okay, that's good to know. Other than the dog, have you got any successes in mind?
He's got a tail turtleneck. What more do you need?
Okay. All right. We're going down that route. Steve Jobs or Elizabeth Holmes are you making a reference to?
I guess more Elizabeth Holmes.
Okay. I've forgotten the question now.
She's got a husky voice and a black turtleneck. Problem solved.
What were we talking about there?
I don't know.
Yeah. Who would you want? Have you got a successor in mind?
Not yet. Hopefully at some point.
Right. So, because you did say you were going to stand down.
Well, I did stand down.
Okay. All right, let's move on from that then. All right. What about this office? I'm intrigued about this office. You said it was expensive.
You don't really need a CEO.
Yeah?
Yeah. Why can't we be an innocuous syndicalist commune?
I think Jack Dorsey kind of recommended doing that, and you kind of ignored it.
Yeah, it was kind of that, actually.
This office, are you thinking about moving out of San Francisco?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. No, I mean, this place is nice, and I kind of like this office building, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not, because I know you've talked about there's been high levels of crime here. You actually said at one point.
I think we should do something about the crime.
Right.
People are dying.
Right.
We should take action.
You've also talked about how potentially, I think you might have been joking, but you could turn this into a homeless shelter. So
yes.
I guess the reason I'm asking is, you've
we tried to turn it into a homeless shelter, and the building owner rejected it.
You tried to.
Yeah, they won't let us.
Which bits have you tried to turn into a homeless shelter?
We're only using one of the buildings, and so the other building could be a homeless shelter.
And you've tried to.
Yeah, we would like to do it right now.
Really?
Yes.
And.
No,
you're being stopped by who?
By the building owner.
They won't let you?
No. In fact, they wouldn't even let us take the W off the sign.
So how were you going to do that?
They're really quite
What was your plan for the shelter?
I don't know. We could just let people stay there. It's nice.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that.
They can bring their stuff, bring the tent and whatever.
Right. And it's a roof over their head.
Yeah. If the building owner lets us, we'll do it.
Yeah? So if the building owner lets you, you would happily do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There we go. What's the most difficult thing you've had to do? What's the hardest thing you've had to do?
In my whole life?
In the last 6 months. We're talking about the last 6 months as you as Twitter boss here, Twitter owner.
Well, shutting down one of our service centers was quite difficult because it turns out there were. I thought the service centers were redundant, but there were in fact a lot of things that were hard coded to this one service center, and so when we shut it down, we actually it was quite catastrophic. We lost a lot of functionality, which sort of really rushed to put it back.
When was that?
And that was around late December, early January.
So that was the biggest sort of, I'm worried here.
Biggest crisis, yeah.
Yeah. And what about hard in terms of emotional? I mean, just letting go. I mean, what were the levels of staff, and what are they now?
I think we're around 1,500 people at this point, and there was, I think, 7,800.
What was that?
I think it was around just under 8,000, and
8,
we're about 1,500 right now.
Okay. And has it been hard letting that many people go?
Yeah. It's not fun at all. It's painful.
I mean, I guess in what way do you feel like you need to speak to people when they leave, or?
I mean, it's not physically possible to speak to that many people.
Has that? I mean, you talked about that being the most technical bit. Has that been sort of the hardest thing emotionally, or is it?
It's one of the hardest things, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. The Nancy Pelosi tweet.
Leave it alone, Jesus.
But there have been, as an example of a few, and there have been others. Do you feel like you're an impulsive person?
I mean, have I shot myself in the foot with tweets multiple times? Yes.
Do you feel like...
I need bulletproof shoes at this point.
You've definitely done that. The issue is that you're now a Twitter owner. Do you feel like you should look at your tweets more? You have a higher responsibility when you tweet something out for it to be accurate?
I think I should not tweet after 3 a.m.
That's the rule.
Yeah, well, maybe 2 a.m.
That's the new rule.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so there's a blanket ban.
I shouldn't.
What are your Twitter rules? I mean, I've heard some people say never tweet when you've been drinking, or never tweet when angry. What are your Twitter rules?
Well, I think those are two good rules. Yeah, don't tweet if you're wasted, or really upset about something. Yeah, probably. I mean, a good friend of mine actually had a good suggestion, and it has helped, which is that if you're going to tweet something that maybe is controversial, save it as a draft and look at it the next day and see if you still want to tweet it. And that has been a good rule of thumb.
Okay.
So I've got a bunch of things in my draft folder that I'm glad I didn't send.
I can't remember whether I've asked you this. This is my sort of wrapping up at this point. But yeah, do you have any regrets?
I mean, one can always, hindsight's 20/20, so that a bunch of decisions that could have been made better for sure. But as I said, all's well that ends well. And things are going pretty well. So in the grand scheme of things, I can't complain.
Okay. I'm going to just check my list of things to make sure I've actually asked.
I mean, is maybe this something that people on the Twitter want to say? Ask, we can ask them.
That's on you. That's on you.
Wow, there's 680,000 people listening.
There you go.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Let's see. How do we see? Okay. Let me see who. I'll just look at my tweet and see what people are saying or what questions they have. Do you like the BBC? Do you like BBC?
Okay, yeah, we're not going to.
Oh, I can't interview you.
Obviously, I work for the BBC.
But do you like BBC?
I know.
I see what you're doing. I'm not going to respond to that. Okay. I think we can finish the interview there. If you want to continue, thank you very much.
Well,
Elon,
come on.
I really appreciate it.
Sure you like BBC. Come on.
I'm not engaging. All right. Elon, it honestly has been a pleasure talking to you. It really has. And if you want to carry on answering questions on this, then go for it. But I'm not going to.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to see if there's like any good. There's a lot of comments here.
I can imagine.
There's so many. Anyway, so it's nice to be interviewed by the BBC. I have a lot of respect for the British Broadcasting Corporation.
When did you say when the actual label's going to go public?
Oh, is it? Do we still say state media or whatever? Or it says government-funded media currently, as opposed to publicly funded media. Well, I guess probably we can make that change tomorrow if you'd like.
It's up to you. I'm a journalist. It's up to you. But I mean, we'll expect that tomorrow.
I mean, do you have any requests on a personal level, or you can't speak on a personal level?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we've established that. Go on, what questions are people asking you? Go on.
I mean, there's like a lot of comments. Let's see. I was literally reading looking at replies to the fact that just the spaces.
Are there any good questions that I've missed out from the last 6 months? I'm sure there are many.
I mean, people generally seem to like this interview, as far as I can tell. Very few negative comments are generally positive.
Is that that's probably bad for me?
I'm scrolling as fast as I can to sort of see. I guess there's some complaints about Twitter Spaces needing some improvement. Let's fix Twitter Spaces is one of the comments. People like the fact that my dog Floki is the CEO. And I'm really just scrolling as fast as I can here.
I guess my reflection on this interview.
I'd just like to say I like BBC. I do find it funny.
I think, I mean, honestly, listening to the interview, the answer about misinformation and saying, oh, we don't police misinformation in this country. We do because we try and take down bots, we'll be effective at bots. There's actually less misinformation on the platform.
I think that's a big factor.
So you're watching BBC News. We're live from London, and you have been watching live there a conversation between Elon Musk and James Clayton, our technology reporter. And Musk, of course, took over Twitter, buying the social media company for some $44 billion. And the reason why this conversation started was because earlier this week, the BBC responded to the tag on one of the Twitter handles for the BBC as a government-funded media label. So the BBC objected to that. James emailed Elon Musk immediately to get his response to the situation. And as you can see, this is the culmination of that email. They've actually been in conversation for a good half an hour or so, in which Elon Musk said that the new CEO of Twitter is none other than his pet Shiba Inu puppy Floki.